With only 5 episodes left, there are still quite a few lingering questions in Twin Peaks. I wanted to take today and address some of those questions. Specifically, what is going on with the timeline and how many timelines are there?
Hey, I'm G, and this is the G-Spot.
Time has been a mystery in this season of Twin Peaks, and we have been given very little information about exactly what time it is in any of the stories that we've seen. I want to start out with one definitive statement that we got that at least tells us what year we are currently in the show. The statement we can use to pinpoint the year that these events are occurring in comes from Albert. It's when he's talking to Gordon after they just discovered Agent Briggs's body in Buckhorn. And Albert says to Gordon that Briggs died in a fire 25 years ago. Now, we do know that the fire was fairly close to the time that Twin Peaks ended, season 2 ended. We've heard numerous accounts of the meeting that occurred between Cooper and Briggs. Now, to put a date on exactly when season 2 ended, we could use The Secret History of Twin Peaks, which has an article on the bank explosion that Audrey Horne was involved in. And this article dates that bank explosion in March of 1989, which would put us at 2014. So we know that Albert Gordon, the FBI, is in 2014. And we also know that Buckhorn is in 2014 because that's where Albert and Gordon have this conversation. Now, we can also tie Las Vegas into that current timeline. We have had communication from Doppelganger Cooper to Las Vegas. Cooper called Duncan Todd, and he spoke about current events. We know that Duncan Todd is on the same timeline as the rest of Las Vegas because he has interacted with Anthony. And Anthony has interacted with the Mitchum brothers and Dougie, all on the same topic matter. So that does put Buckhorn, Las Vegas, and Doppelganger Cooper all on the same timeline. But what it does not confirm is where Twin Peaks is on the timeline. Now, when Tammy interviews Bill Hastings, it's the same episode that we hear Frank, Hawk, and Bobby indicate that October 1st is only 2 days away. And again, in that same episode, we see Bill Hastings write a date down, and it appears to be September 20th, putting them close to 10 days apart. Now, there is some dispute with this date that Bill Hastings writes. Some people feel that he did not write 20, that he wrote 29, saying that that is a sloppy 9. And I can't completely argue against this. That certainly could be a sloppy 9. But in no way can we say that is definitely a sloppy 9. So there's no way we can really say whether that is a 20 or a 29. And therefore, there's really no connection throughout the entire series that gives us an exact date for Twin Peaks. But we do know that they're certainly close on the timeline that everybody else is on. And the way that we know that they are at least close to this timeline is from seeing Richard at the farm. Now, Richard certainly could have been at the farm at any point in time. It did appear in the order they presented things that Richard is at the farm after he bolted out of Twin Peaks. The evidence that we see is Richard is dressed exactly the same as he was when we saw him at Miriam's and then his grandmother's. So if there is a time difference between Twin Peaks and everybody else, it is very close. And I would guess the biggest time difference would simply be those 9 days that possibly were indicated when Bill Hastings wrote that date. At the end of episode 7, when we ended at the Double R, and the question is proposed, where's Billy? There is a sudden change in clientele inside the Double R. On one shot, there is these people sitting at the counters and being waited on. We cut to Norma, and when we come back from Norma, there's different people in the restaurant, which does leave the question, are there time quakes happening? Did everything just change in front of us? Are we actually watching a different timeline now than we were before we went to Norma. So the question is, was the customer switch an intentional change that they used to indicate time quakes, or was the change in customers unintentional and actually a mistake in, let's say, editing? There's been many comments, which I do agree with, which is that Lynch and Frost are very intentional in the things that they present. And I do support that, but only to a certain extent. We have to keep in mind that as brilliant as David Lynch is, he is a human being, and therefore he will make mistakes. And I believe that the change in clientele at the Double R was a mistake. And the reason I believe it is right here. So let's say this was intentional, that they changed the customers, the clientele in the Double R on purpose to signify a time quake. If they were to do that, I would say that every single person in the Double R would be accounted for. I would think this would be a place where they would put all their attention in to make sure that this hidden message about an abstract topic was communicated very clearly to us. But the thing is with all the changes that happen in the Double R at this point, they don't actually all line up. And this is why. There's 4 shots back there, and the shots labeled 1 are the shots before the change happened. The shots labeled 2 are shots after the change happened. And the problem is that the bearded bald guy is not in both number 1s, and he's also not in both number 2s. So he was there before the change happened, but he also wasn't there before the change happened. And he was there after the change happened, but he's also not there after the change happens. This does indicate that the change is more of a mistake than an intentional thing. If there was a time quake that caused a change in the customers, then the bald-headed man with the beard should either be in both 1A and 1B or both 2A and 2B. So I do not find this change in clientele at the end of this episode to be from a time quake. I think it's a mistake. So I do believe that there is only one timeline going on in Twin Peaks, and I do not believe that we are watching Twin Peaks on one timeline and then Twin Peaks on another timeline. Because that's essentially what a time quake is. A time quake is a point in time where the timeline that you're on splits into 2. The last question is, are we being presented things in chronological order? And this does matter. As I pointed out in my last video, the scene where Hawk is at the hole with the Black Lodge and sees the red curtains is presented to us in episode 2. And it seems like a meaningless event because in episode 3, we see him continue with his mission to find what's missing from Agent Cooper. But if this scene from Hawk was presented out of order, it's possible that we are going to see that Hawk got trapped in the Black Lodge or went into the Black Lodge. Maybe he got back out again. I don't know. Again, there's a lot more to that scene if it is presented out of order. And there has been a lot of evidence given to us that suggests we are being given scenes out of order. The first piece of evidence that we're given is the opening scene, not in the international version. I know there was a different opening scene, but when Cooper is talking to ... he does not have his FBI pin on. And that's the first thing that is presented to us from Agent Cooper. We then see Agent Cooper in the Black Lodge. He talks to Laura and the one-armed man and the arm, the evolution of the arm. And Cooper has his pin on. He has his pin on in the Black Lodge. He still has his pin on when he goes to the strange dimension. But once Cooper comes through the electrical outlet, then he no longer has the pin on. So this indicates to us that the very first scene we see of Cooper is way out of order. That it's actually after Cooper finally realizes that he's not Dougie Jones and that he is Agent Cooper. Which also kind of reassures us that we definitely will see Agent Cooper by the end of this series. Another example is when we see Dougie Cooper playing catch in episode 12. Episode 11 ends in the restaurant with Dougie Cooper having dinner pie with the Mitchum brothers. Episode 13 begins with the Mitchum brothers and Dougie celebrating at Lucky 7 Insurance Company. And Bushnell makes a comment to Dougie, "You better call your wife," indicating that Dougie has not spoken to his wife the whole night that he's been with the Mitchum brothers. But in episode 12, which was between these 2 points, we see Dougie at home during the day playing catch with standing there as Sonny Jim throws a ball at him. That scene is presented out of order to us. A third example of scenes being presented out of order is Bobby and the Double R in episode 13. Now, I know a lot of people feel that we cannot 100% prove that Bobby did not find something else from his father, and that he's not, when he tells Ed and Norma, "I found something from my dad today," he's not referring to what him, Hawk, and Frank got from Miss Briggs. However, I have a big problem with this. I do not for 1 minute believe that Lynch ever deliberately misleads us. I mostly don't believe this because the guy just doesn't have to. He just naturally builds a tremendous amount of mystery in what he presents to us. It's just part of his work. It's amazing. There's no reason for him to have to mislead the audience to build mystery. Why would Lynch be misleading us if Bobby did find something else on another day? If the whole answer to this is Bobby then found another thing from his father that Lynch didn't show us but did decide to reference, that is deliberately misleading us. And I'm sorry, but he does not need to do this. He has built up plenty of mystery in this show without misleading us. And he does need to start giving us some hints to put things together. And this statement from Bobby to Ed and Norma was a hint to allow us to start putting some things together, like the fact that we are not being presented things in chronological order. Now, is this all going to come into play? Does it mean anything? I don't necessarily think so. It very well could come into play by the end of the series, but it also could just be to get us to pay attention to time, because time is very specific to the storyline that we are watching. Margaret and a couple other places have already referenced that the stars turn and when they are aligned. This event that is occurring on 10-1 and 10-2 is a planetary type event. It is occurring because the planets and stars are going to be aligned in a certain pattern or formation. And so time is extremely significant to the story we're watching. It also reinforces the whole time and space thing don't exist, and reality of life is a mystery and we don't completely understand it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, go ahead and give it a like. If you know anybody else who watches Twin Peaks and would be interested in it, go ahead and share it with them. And if you'd like to be notified every time I upload a new video, go ahead, subscribe, click the bell, and you will be alerted when I upload a new video. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day.